Cassie Ventura, the star witness in the government's case against Sean Diddy Combs, takes the stand and testifies about the freak-offs that are at the center of the case against Combs and the abuse she says she suffered at his hands. I go through the most disturbing moments from Cassie Ventura's testimony so far.
The truth behind the glitz is often darker than we can imagine. On day 3 of Sean Diddy Combs' explosive trial, singer and former partner Cassie Ventura delivered heartbreaking testimony, peeling back the curtain on a relationship marked by fear, violence, and control. In an emotional recount, Ventura revealed that the first time Combs became physically violent left her in utter shock, an incident that was only the beginning of a harrowing pattern.
The prosecution's star witness taking the stand, but it was more than that. It was how Cassie took that stand. You could hear a pin drop when those doors opened, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past a man she had not seen in 6.5 years. A man she says violently abused her for a decade. A man the prosecution said trafficked her. Well, she sat across from him, placed her overcoat behind her, turning her body slightly toward the jury, rubbing her pregnant belly throughout her testimony.
She described being beaten after a party, chased by Combs' security when she tried to flee, and a disturbing 2018 encounter where she says he raped her in her own living room. The courtroom stood still as Ventura broke down in tears, recalling how trauma led her to rehab in early 2023 and moments where she felt suicidal. She alleged Combs not only hurt her but was also violent with employees, once punching someone in the head and even holding her friend over a balcony.
Cassie Ventura, the star witness for the government, she has been on the stand for the second day, the continuation of her direct examination. And so far, what we've heard from her testimony is very detailed information about what she says Sean Combs was having her participate in. And these are those freak-offs and how he would be providing her with drugs, suggesting that she take the drugs, and then she said she wanted to take the drugs for every single freak-off in order to disassociate with what was taking place. She said on the stand that she hated participating.
Her civil suit against Combs, filed in November 2023, resulted in a $20 million settlement. But as her chilling testimony shows, no amount of money can erase the trauma she endured. A picture may be worth 1,000 words, but in court, it can be everything. As Cassie Ventura's emotional testimony continued in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, the jury was presented with powerful visual evidence supporting her claims of coercion and abuse.
It lasts like 5 minutes or so, where she describes 2023 being a time where she went to rehab. She said this was after an incident where she said, "I didn't want to be alive." This is her words. "I didn't want to be alive at this point." She was shooting a music video, and she said she thought back to what she said she experienced, and she had these flashbacks. She says, "I remember coming home to my children and my husband and looking at my husband and saying, 'You can do this without me.'" She describes walking into traffic. She then says, through the rehab, she started writing. And when she was finished with all of the writing, she had a book. Because she had this book, she said, "You know what? I wanted to share it with Sean Combs. I wanted him to, quote, understand what he put me through." She said in court, "I was 22. I would have done anything for him. I did, but it just seemed like it wasn't enough." So she reached out to the chief of staff of Sean Combs, according to Ventura, and that chief of staff told her that Combs was not taking this book seriously.
Prosecutors showed numerous photos documenting Ventura's injuries: black eyes, a swollen lip, a deep gash on her forehead, and extensive bruising across her body. The courtroom fell into a heavy silence as these images painted a harrowing picture of the violence she says she endured. Additionally, the jury was shown about 7 still images taken from disturbing videos known as freak-offs, depicting Ventura with multiple escorts.
Disgusting. Humiliated. She says she took all kinds of drugs to numb herself and disassociate. And she testified Diddy frequently got physically abusive. One of those times was during a 2016 incident at a California hotel. This video. Cassie says she was in a freak-off with Diddy and an escort just a couple of days before her first big movie premiere. And she claims Diddy gave her a black eye, and all she could think about was getting out of there safely. So she ran out while Diddy was in the shower, she says. The prosecutor asked, quote, "How many times had Sean thrown you to the ground like that before?" Cassie responded, too many to count. I don't know. Cassie was also asked if there were occasions when she tried to fight back when he would hit her. She said, no. Cassie's testimony, it's far from over. She'll be back on that stand tomorrow. And her lawyer, though, says she's feeling good.
It takes immense strength to speak your truth, especially when the world is watching. Outside the New York courtroom, Cassie Ventura's attorney, Douglas Wigdor, described her second day of testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial as nothing short of powerful. Speaking to reporters, Wigdor praised Ventura's courage in laying bare the trauma she endured during her decade-long relationship with Combs. She told her truth.
And Ventura says no, she denied it. But she said during that time, she was forced to be in a hotel for about a week, and she couldn't leave. She said, I wanted to go home. I told Sean I wanted to go home, as she refers to him in court. I told some of his handlers I wanted to go home, but they said I had to stay there. So you have that as a potential element that prosecutors will look at that when they probably do their closing argument.
Yeah, sure, Julia. So you're taking a look at some of that video now, and this is just an example of how kind of chaotic it can be when certain people are making their way inside the courtroom. I've been upstairs outside the hallway as Mr. Fine has been waiting to get inside the courtroom. He stands there. A lot of people have asked me, well, describe him and what's he doing as he's standing there. He has an entourage around him. He's worn a black T-shirt. He's
Wigdor emphasized how difficult it must have been for Ventura to relive moments of violence, coercion, and suicidal thoughts, particularly after years of drug dependency that had once left her feeling numb. I wouldn't want to be doing that cross-examination, he added, confident in the impact her testimony left on the jury. When asked about Ventura's husband, Wigdor replied somberly, "Put yourself in his shoes."
Coming across so far, Rich, we only have transcripts, but what she is describing is a relationship in which she was in love with a man who was then trying to get her, or forcing her, coercing her, and that's part of the statute, to take part in these freak-offs. And this entailed physical and verbal emotional abuse when it didn't go the way he wanted it to.
Right. So, we only have the reports from the scene, which have been very helpful in kind of following this trial. Multiple people who were in that courtroom reporting as it goes. And it sounds like she's doing a pretty good job testifying. The reports are that she's well-spoken, soft-spoken, that she didn't look at Combs directly when she came into the court. So she's a little bit low-key, which I think is the right look for this. And the prosecution is using her expansively, not only as a witness about the abuse she suffered, allegedly, but about the nature of his alleged criminal enterprise and the people under his command and all sorts of other things. So she's covering an awful lot of ground. It's hard to know exactly how that's hitting the jurors.
One of the quotes from her was, when you really care about somebody and you're in love with them, you don't want to disappoint them. And she was talking about, participating in these freak-offs. And so she's wiping away tears as she says this, according to the reports coming out of the courtroom and according to the transcripts. So she's describing, there's a dynamic here between her and Combs. There's an age difference. There's a power difference. Obviously, he's one of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry. She says she's in love with him. She gets roped into these freak-offs. We saw the video. The video plays for the hotel video with the beating, plays for the jury. That's got to be pretty powerful stuff for a jury to see that video and then listening to Cassie talk about this.
Yeah, the video is really shock and awe, and I understand the prosecution wanting to get that video out there at the outset of this trial. That shows genuine physical abuse. There's really no way around that. The rest of the story is more complicated. They're in a long-term relationship. She says she loves him. It sounds like maybe he loves her. There's some behavior that seems like it might be consensual, but Anjanette, it is 2025, so we understand now.
Money can't clean up violence, and this time the evidence speaks louder than fame. In a major reveal in Sean Diddy, Combs' sex trafficking trial, new public evidence has surfaced from a 2016 hotel assault involving his then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. Among the most damning pieces, an incident report and email from a former hotel security official, Los Angeles police officer Israel Flores, who responded to a woman in distress call at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles.